We're going to bring the meeting to order.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners meeting. This is a public meeting that is being aired live on our local cable television station, QACTV 7. This media broadcast provides county citizens with an opportunity to watch and review our scheduled public meetings. We still good? On sound? Okay. In addition to our live audience this evening, we are providing remote options for citizens to watch and participate in county commissioner meetings. Citizens may watch our meeting live on our website at qac.org/live or on our public access governmental television channel provided by Breezeline Cable Services. Citizens may also email comments to publiccomment@qac.org, and all comments received will be summarized during the press and public comment period on tonight's agenda. We acknowledge everyone's participation, and by attending, you acknowledge that this session is both recorded and aired. Press and public comment will be taken and is limited to 3 minutes per person. If you do care to speak, please sign up at the information table in the rear of the room here, and comments longer than 3 minutes may be submitted in writing for the Commissioner's review. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission President Jim Moran.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Commissioners, that brings us to the approval of this evening's agenda. So our agenda for tonight's meeting, July 28th, along with the regular session minutes and the closed session minutes from the last meeting on July 14th, they've all been circulated for your review. Do we have any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve the agenda and the minutes as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, Commissioners, now we can move into general press and public comments. So this first press and public comment period is for general comments. We have 2 hearings tonight. We have other press and public comment sheets for those 2 hearings as well in the rear. So we appreciate all citizens for taking time to express views to the County Commissioners. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments longer than 3 minutes can be submitted in writing. And this commission respects everyone's desire and right to convey messages freely. When you come forward, please speak clearly at the standing microphone. State your name, your address, and your topic of interest. And in keeping with the dignity of our office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner.
Very good. Our first person would be Virginia Albers.
I'm sorry.
She's on the wrong sheet.
No worries. Okay. Laura Davis.
I am fine. Thanks, Virginia. Let me go. I'll first. Laura's got it.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Laura Davis of Churchill, Maryland, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I've spoken before about the safety concerns at the intersection of US 301 and Maryland 405. I see Ordinance 2605 on the agenda here shortly. So tonight I'd like to address something a little different. The precedent that this ordinance sets is what it says about how we make decisions in Queen Anne's County. Good planning is about looking beyond today's request and asking what the long-term consequences will be. Ordinance 2605 isn't just about one property. If approved, it changes the county standard that will apply to future development across Queen Anne's County. That's a significant decision and one that deserves careful consideration. When standards are established, they are typically based on engineering principles, safety, and lessons learned over many years. Before we lower those standards, the burden should be on proving that doing so makes our roads equally safe or safer. I have not seen any evidence that reducing setbacks near intersections improves public safety. What I have seen are recommendations to deny the change. That should matter. As elected officials, you are often asked to balance economic development with public safety. I believe development is important, growth is important, but growth should never come at the expense of sound planning or the safety of people who live, work, and travel here every single day. The 301-405 intersection already presents challenges. Residents, like myself, have been asking for years for improvements that make it safer and more efficient. We should be discussing traffic solutions, intersection improvements, and infrastructure investments, not lowering safeguards that were put in place to reduce risk. This decision is also about public trust. Residents need to know that when professional staff identify legitimate safety concerns, those concerns will be taken seriously. If expert recommendations can simply be set aside whenever they're inconvenient, it raises question about why those standards exist in the first place. I ask you to not only think about this ordinance, but about the message your vote sends. Will Queen Anne's County be known for protecting the integrity of its planning process and putting public safety first? Or will we be remembered for lowering standards despite repeated warnings from our own experts? I respectfully ask you to vote no when there is a vote on Ordinance 2605, and instead commit to working with the State Highway Administration and other partners to pursue meaningful improvements at one of the county's busiest and most dangerous intersections. Our residents deserve solutions that make our roads safer, not standards that make future development easier at the expense of safety. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you. Jay Falstad.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jay Falstad, Queen Anne's Conservation Association. Just a general comment. I know that you're going to be taking up text amendments 2605 and 2606 a little later, but I want to talk generally about the last 4 text amendments. So I realize text amendments are part of our process, but there's a flaw in the process. I'm grateful for the fact that we have a public hearing and that you all hear citizen concerns on this. But the way that these are set up is when you look at all 4 of the ones that have come up these last few weeks, and especially these last 2, these text amendments are brought forward for the benefit of one landowner. And what happens is these text amendments come in for that one landowner without any understanding of what the total impact for the rest of the county would be. And that's not the way to legislate. Our legislation is meant to protect, or legislation should be meant to protect everybody, so that we have a good understanding of what the overall impacts are around the county on all 4 of these text amendments. And so it just seems to me like ultimately we ought to have a better understanding of how these are going to impact the rest of our citizens. That's why we have comprehensive planning. This seems to go outside of that process. And so for now, I would urge you to vote no on the 2 text amendments that you have coming up tonight. And in the longer scheme of things, I think we ought to be looking at a process that instead of having these text amendments come from the bottom up, they ought to be coming from the top down. And what I mean by that is citizens come to you as commissioners, they pitch an idea, say, here's what I'd like to have introduced as legislation, have that be evaluated for its overall county impact, and that's the right way to do it. Having this start at the very bottom and go through the whole stack review, then go through the Planning Commission and have the Planning Commission try and resurrect some of this stuff and correct the deficiencies of the original language that some of these text amendments have, seems to me to put an undue burden on staff, on you guys, on the citizens that are trying to evaluate it. The process needs to be reversed so that it starts at the top and goes downward. And with that, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Chris Blanton?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chris Blanton, Churchill. They're very eloquent. I'm here to speak on 2605 and 2606 as well. What I'll say is I am for local business. However, most rules are made with safety in mind, especially when we're talking about roads and stuff like that. I will say that I did read an article from it was from the Maryland Eastern Shore, and it basically says that I guess the attorney representing the applicant said that much of the opposition has centered on the intersection of US 301 and 405, which he argued is more than 100 feet from the proposed development, and therefore does not conflict with the current ordinance. But then the co-owner, I guess, said of the property at 1104 Price Station Road, and the member of 3C said the amendment is intended to allow redevelopment of the Churchill property. So it seems like they need the amendment to put the new gas station in. Honestly, living close by, I've seen a lot of fatal accidents. we should be looking for ways to move businesses maybe a little farther back from 301, as opposed to continue to maybe move them a little bit closer with putting them right on the line. Right now, the state is to blame with the failures to properly address the safety of the intersections. If you change the rules, the second there's another collision, the county will be to blame. They'll say, the Planning Commission has already recommended the denial, and then if it's approved, and then there's a fatal accident, whether it's that or not, it's going to be the county to blame, which we know it's the state. It's going to be encouraging more individuals when you put a gas station there that are completely unaware of how dangerous the intersection is to cross or enter onto the highway in that area. We shouldn't really be changing any rules, in my opinion, that will affect any intersection from the rest stop to 19. We just had another gruesome fatal collision on the 4th of July from someone out of Delaware that was unfamiliar with the area. So now we're going to be encouraging more people that are riding up and down 301, and there's a lot more traffic now that the Key Bridge is down, to be entering onto this intersection that is already arguably one of the most dangerous in the state. And that's basically my sum up, is basically a gas station is going to encourage thousands of out-of-towners to use an already dangerous intersection. And I think I saw Churchill Firehouse here. They're probably tired of dealing with the fatal accidents. So just my 2 cents. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. That's all who signed up. Would anybody else like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the press and public comment.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Okay, we have a few pieces of legislation here and one business item. So first, if you want to turn to tab number 7, Commissioners, under legislation. We have 2 items here. First, we have in tab 7, amendment number 1 to county ordinance number 2605 for supplemental standards for gas stations. So this is an amendment to the bill that's been considered supplemental standards for gas stations to include fuel pumps, underground fuel storage tanks, and islands and canopies in Queen Anne's County. And the amendment here is for the purpose of amending the county ordinance, which is pending, 2605, to allow the Board of Appeals to grant a variance permitting the distance between an exit entrance to a gas station to any intersection to be no less than 75 feet.
Hey, Todd, what about Public Works, Admin, Engineering, Maryland Energy Administration?
We'll cover that next.
We're going to go back to it?
Yeah, we will.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So this amendment was drafted by the planning staff, and this can be introduced if you so choose, and then convey it to the Planning Commission for review, and then return recommendation within 60 days to the board.
All right, I'll introduce the amendment.
Okay? We good with that?
Yep.
All right, Commissioners, also in tab 7, item number 2, this is amendment number 1 to county ordinance number 2606, maximum impervious surface ratio in the suburban district. And this is also an amendment to a pending bill to increase the maximum impervious surface ratio for commercial and industrial uses in the the suburban commercial district which were in operation prior to December 31st, 2025. And the purpose here is to amend County Ordinance 2606 to increase the maximum impervious surface ratio for all uses in that district from 45% to 65%. The original bill was 85%. So this would reduce that percentage.
So it just needs to be introduced.
This can also be introduced and conveyed to the Planning Commission.
Okay, I'll introduce it. And do you need a general consensus to convey it?
Just
Okay.
introduced and motion to convey to the commission.
right.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much for those 2 items. Now we can go to tab number 2. This is for the Department of Public Works.
Todd, just so the people who are here who spoke on this understand what we just did. So there's an amendment to that proposed ordinance. When that happens, it has to go back to the Planning Commission, and they have to give us their recommendation on it before it comes back to the commissioners to actually be voted on. So the ordinance has not been voted in favor or against. There's a potential amendment that we'll see what the Planning Commission has to say.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Yep.
Sorry.
And a tornado.
And I know we're under a tornado watch right now, so. All right, Commissioners, tab number 2, we have one action item for the Department of Public Works. So, Lee, if you want to come on up here. Tab number 2, item number 1, this is the Maryland Energy Administration Local Government Modernization Program Grant Agreements. So the Maryland Energy Administration, MEA, has selected Queen Anne's County to receive up to $2.414 million in grant funding for FY26 through their modernization program in 2 different areas of interest. One area of interest will be a 90% reimbursement rate with 10% match for general energy efficiency and clean energy projects. And then the second area of interest 4 has an additional 5 agreements, and they will be for basically equipment, heat pumps at the Department of Public Works, Graysonville Senior Center, the Health Department, Liberty Building, and the Foxtown Senior Center. So if I could get a motion on that, and then if you have any questions, we have Chief Engineer Lee Edgar here that's applied for these and secured these agreements for this grant funding.
I move to execute the local government energy modernization program grant agreements with the Maryland Energy Administration and authorize the Department of Public Works to administer the projects.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I don't recall ever seeing one of these in the last 10 years. Is this?
It's that $60 million that they got for fines from the power companies not meeting their green standards, and they gave it out to public, right?
No, that's right. And the funding is been put out to be available to local governments through the local government energy modernization program. They put out a request for proposals. So Queen Anne's County submitted a proposal for 2 of those areas of interest, because you notice that there's several grant agreements provided. One of them falls under area of interest 1, where the focus is on sustainability and energy efficiencies, such as geothermal, renewable energy sources. The other one, an area of interest 4, focused on looking at moving away from fossil fuels via electrification. So all these are moving away from fossil fuels and using more energy efficient things. So we put together concept proposals for county facilities where we have infrastructure that's looking toward its life cycle replacement. So we know that we're going to be spending this funding already. Thought that this would be an excellent opportunity to perhaps leverage some of this funding opportunity to do so. Ultimately, the proposals before you, the county has the ability to obtain up to just over $1 million for area of interest 1. Those would be renewables, and $1.3 million under the area of interest 4, and that right there would be for the use of electrification and such. So the proposals that we put forth were conceptual. This grant funds not only installation but design. So in the event that through the design or the concept process we find that it's really not quite feasible or desirable to pursue an option for any one of these, we are not under an obligation to proceed with that, and that funding for that specific award would be forfeited.
Good. Any other questions?
Yeah, have heat pumps gotten more efficient? Because under 35, generally, they don't work very well. So what's the backup if we have 0-degree weather for a week and we don't have any gas backup, or will we keep the oil pumps as a backup?
That's an excellent question, Commissioner, and very much a concern of ours. So our facilities manager, Paul Kirsch, and I have been working on this, and that is a drawback and concern with going with heat pumps. There's that maybe 2 to 5 days out of the year where it's inadequate. And there are ways around that, such as, for instance, having electric reheat and VAV boxes and things. One of the ones that we're not quite sure yet that we want to proceed with the Liberty Building, taking that away entirely from boilers and going to the heat pumps. There would be ways that we would need to make that work, and we will not proceed with it unless we're confident that in addition to the heat pump solution, there is backup via other alternates such as electric reheat and such to bridge the gap during extreme cold temperatures.
So I would guess with the delivery charges that we're now paying to import from Pennsylvania, that this could actually end up costing us more money in the long run per kilowatt hour. I'm not asking you to answer
Yeah.
that, I'm just making a statement on that. Something to think about.
Well, thank you, and you're right, and that's why I did want to emphasize in the memo and making the statement that we are not obligated to proceed. We put in the proposals to be awarded some money, and then through the design process, if we are not comfortable that we will receive proper energy efficiencies and savings, fiscal savings, or reliability when we need it, that would not be an approach we would take.
So this vote is not to make, this is not the final vote. This is just allow you to proceed to look into this and then come back to us?
No, this is the funding vote.
This is the funding vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll have the funds to do it, and if they choose not to do it, we save our money, the rest of it goes back where it came from.
So you can, all right, so you will choose not to do it if it doesn't make sense.
That's right. If it does not make sense, we will not do it. There's not a penalty. We would just forfeit those funds. And because it's broken down into 6 different agreements, that gives us a great deal of flexibility. If, for example, Liberty Building, for exactly the scenario that you described, if we're not comfortable that we could achieve the reliability that we're looking for under the energy efficient requirements, we wouldn't proceed with that, and then there's no loss. We would just not have that funding source.
Are all of these out of date? You know, Foxtown Health Department, are they really, really old?
Many of these are. Some of them, such as in the case of the Liberty Building, has reached its life expectancy. That's 1993. In the case of the Graysonville Senior Center, those are 2002 units, so they're nearing the end of their life expectancy. But more critically, they've been problematic and unreliable for us. So these particular projects were proposed with our request for consideration for funding because we'd identified them as facilities that within the next 5 years or so, we would want to program their replacement, and this would be an opportunity to have 50% or more of that funded through this opportunity. So yes, this is work that we will, the intent is, owing to life cycle replacement, will likely proceed within the next 5 years, give or take. With this funding opportunity, we would want to maximize that to the greatest extent that we can and save the taxpayers some money.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, that is all the business we had this evening. We have, next up, we have our 2 public hearings. The first one is at 6:30, so we have just a few minutes. We'll have to take a short break, if you'd like, till 6:30 to commence with that hearing. Is that?
Yep.
Okay. Take a 5-minute recess.
Yep.
Yeah, he said he'd take that.
All right, we're going to bring the meeting back to order.
Okay, Commissioners, we have our first of 2 public hearings. This is the public hearing for the Barclay Sewer Subdistrict. And this hearing is to hear public testimony on the proposed rate increases for the Barclay Sewer Subdistrict here in Barclay. So we have a PowerPoint presentation that Public Works Director Alan Quimby is going to provide, and we have County Attorney Pat Thompson. He's going to read the legal notice. We'll have the presentation, and then we'll take public testimony on the Barclay Sewer Subdistrict rate schedule hearing. So, Mr. Thompson?
Ready? This is a public hearing being held by the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, July 28, 2026, at the REEB Manufacturing Facility, 1315 Goldsboro Road in Barclay. Purpose of the hearing is to consider revisions to and adoption of the Barclay Sewer Service Area rate schedules. Copies of the proposed rate schedules have been available at the offices of the county commissioners. If adopted, these changes are proposed to take effect on October 1st, 2026. The actual rate schedules contain the revisions. The major points of those are to institute a customer charge of $6 per quarter per account, to institute a ready-to-serve program to assist homeowners with limited incomes currently defined as a gross income of $38,484 or less. Third, to modify the ready-to-serve charge billing from a per-account basis to a per-EDU basis. Fourth, to increase the current operation and maintenance charge by 25% per EDU. Fifth, to institute an annual rate escalator to be applied to the operation and maintenance charge and the pump maintenance charge effective July 1st, 2027, and each July 1st thereafter. The above rate proposal will take effect automatically unless modified by the Queen Anne's County Sanitary District by a resolution prior to the above mentioned effective dates. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language interpreters and assistive listening systems are available. Persons who wish to comment on the proposed amendments may do so at the hearing. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, but written testimony of any length may be submitted to the Director of Public Works, 314 Safety Drive, Center. Part of the record of the proceeding will be a certificate of publication indicating that notice of the same was published in the Bay Times Record of Observer for 2 consecutive weeks prior to tonight's hearing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alan Gilby.
Thank you, Patrick. As you know, approximately 2 years ago, we completed, or the town of Suttersville at the time completed, extending a collection system into Barclay utilizing grinder pumps. I think the last connection was this month, so the 2-year warranty on that system has expired, although we still have 3 years on the pumps themselves. And the collection system's been functioning great. There's no question about that. Most of the problem is the cost to treat the sewage at the other end in Suttersville. Currently, the expenditures associated with Barclay comes to about $135,000. Only $105,000 in revenue is generated, which obviously represents a $30,000 loss per year. There's a small customer base. You only have 99 accounts, which is difficult to spread the cost. And the other thing that's important to note is that the sanitary district is an enterprise account. We receive no tax dollars from the county. We're run like a business, like enterprise. So the money from the sanitary district has to pay the bills. And right now, the bills that aren't being paid by the Barclay or Suttersville ratepayers are being paid by other users, which is not sustainable in the long term. Some of the issues we ran into, there was a $100,000 loan from National Rural Water for design codes for Barclay that the county knew nothing about when these rates were established. So that comes to $11,587 per year. And a portion of the total flow from Barclay to Suttersville is more like 20%, and the rates had assumed 10%. There is a meter at the south end of Suttersville that measures all the flow, so how we associate or how we divide the flow is strictly by the percentage of flow. So if it costs $100,000 to run the plant, 20% of that flow comes from Barclay, and $20,000 is Barclay's share. I don't know what happened. Something got corrupted on somewhere, but anyhow. So where's the money to go? The first column is the total sewer cost at Suttersville, which is labor is $160,000, which is only 1 man a day. Oftentimes, it's much more than 1 man a day doing something in Suttersville or Barclay, but the way the county has its payroll set up, we only charge 1 man a day to Suttersville and Barclay sewer. Contracted services, that's like keeping the generators running, air compressors running, other contracted services, flow meters, system control. Materials, $43,000, chemicals, $47,000, electricity, $72,000. On the right column, sort of, you can see what Barclay's share is, which comes to about $131,000. You see you get the National Rural Water debt on top of your USDA debt. current rate structure has 4 components. The ready-to-serve fee was set up so to pay the debt service. An O&M fee pays for the treatment of the sewage. Typically, at some point in time, it will have to extend, maintain the collection system, but again, the collection system is relatively new, so it doesn't cost much at all for us to operate it. An EDU is an equivalent dwelling unit. A lot of utilities use that to talk about the flow, and the typical EDU statewide is 250 gallons a day. Pump fee is, each property has at least 1 pump. A few of them have 2 pumps. That's the cost to maintain the pumps, mainly to build up at reserves, because someday those pumps are going to fail, and we'll have to replace them at the county's cost. There were 13 properties that were served. I guess I wasn't the engineer of record. My assumption is, if you remember this, I'm sure you do, this project was bid 12 or 15 years ago. There wasn't enough funds to move forward. And in the intervening 10 years, I assume those 13 properties went derelict, and the engineer never went back and rectified it. So as a result of that, we have 13 derelict properties that are served, and we just have the pump sitting on the shelf for when they ever get occupied. And the bay restoration fee is $5 per month, which that's a state fee that all utilities collect and forward on to the state. So what we suggested was relayed in the advertisement. The county's taken over the billing, so we're no longer using muni billing. By the end of this year, they'll be completely out of the picture. In order to do that, we charge a $2 per month customer charge. That's throughout the sanitary district. The ready-to-serve fee, instead of going on a per-account basis, we felt it was more fair to go on a per-EDU basis. This has no impact on a single-family home. It would have an impact on a 2-apartment home, however. Operation and maintenance increased the current fee to compensate for the increased flow, which comes to about $8 per month for a single-family home. Pump fee, no change suggested. Annual escalator, 5% annual escalator to take effect July 1st, 2027, and every July thereafter, unless modified by the county commissioners. And also note, so that escalator is only going to be applied to the O&M charge and the pump fee, so it really works out to about 3% a year. The county commissioners have extended the ready-to-serve exemption program to Barclay and Suttersville. So if people with fixed incomes, and note that 39,484 is the correct number, not 38,484. That was a typo. It followed me through this entire presentation. So the impact on rates using the current, for a single-family home, at the current rates, right now, a single-family home is paying $102.54. If you qualified for the ready-to-serve exemption program, it would reduce the bill to $63.66. Obviously, if these rate increases are adopted, those numbers will go up a little bit. But it does show you that there is a positive impact if you're eligible for that program. As far as the process, you need to apply. I think I sent out applications to every property owner in Barclay. Once I get the application, I have to send it to the comptroller for income verification. And once you're eligible, it's good for 3 years, then you need to reapply. Rate process, each property owner was mailed information. The county commissioners hold a hearing, which is where we are today. The county commissioners determine the rate increase. The county commissioners are not bound by the rates advertised. They can reduce the rates from those advertised for good, just cause. And also note that this rate increase only gets to Barclay and Suttersville to a break-even point. So we're out of the red and into the black. It doesn't build any reserves. There's no money set aside for future upgrades or anything else. We're just trying to get to a break-even point at this point. And that concludes.
And real quick, is that because we don't have enough users? Is that?
And the rates weren't structured adequately to begin with.
Okay.
But users, that's a huge issue too, for sure. When you have a small sub-district like this and Suttersville, it makes a big difference.
Okay.
A moderate cost is pretty extreme when you have a small number of customers to spread it amongst.
Okay. Thanks, Al.
All right. I have one person signed up to speak, Robin McKinney.
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me here to talk.
As some of you know, I'm one of the commissioners of Barclay, have been so for the last 5 years. And I had all these notes all ready to go, but there's been some questions about information we have gotten. When we were given a handout at our last town meeting, it said that the current operation maintenance charge would be 25% per EDU, while in the handout tonight it says 5%. 5% we can live with. 25%, no. And I'll be honest, when all this started, we were given, I'm just gonna say, we were given a rate that everybody said, okay, we can live with, but what we held, when we had the meeting to ratify that rate, Sudlersville commissioners were here, won't name names, but it became a free-for-all because we had questions about what our rates were going to be, what they were going to be used for, and we never got a definitive answer. So even now, if you're adding another rate increase on a town that you're not allowing to grow and prosper first, then if we can grow more households, then we will be able to pay our fair share. But you're making us out to be the redheaded stepchild in this county for saying we're not paying our fair share. So I'm asking, give us some time. We were told at the beginning that the warranty on these pumps was 10 years, not 5.
You weren't.
So I'm just saying what I remember from the meetings and other people remember from the meetings. And the last meeting that was held here that Sudlersville was in charge of to ratify our rates, we were left with more questions than answers. So I'm asking, give us some time to grow, to come up with solutions to get our EDUs growing and more households. We have now just lifted a 12-year building moratorium. So with that lifted, we have people interested in building homes. With those, we can add EDUs to the system and then possibly start paying our fair share. So that's all I'm asking. Give us some time to grow, and we'll be happy to get them in line with the rest of the county. But you got to figure, this is probably your smallest municipality in the whole county. And all we're doing is sending our waste 3 miles down the road to Sudlersville, where we thought a wastewater treatment plant was built that would hold 10 of Barclays. So maybe give us some time to grow and we'll come in line. But for right now, some of us are struggling, and it's just that something we need time with. So I appreciate your help on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all had signed up to speak. Is there anyone else who has any public comments?
12 years?
Good.
We'll close the public comment. Yep.
We're going to the next hearing?
Yep.
All right, our next hearing is the public hearing for the Sudlersville Water and Sewer Subdistrict. So, same program here. We have Mr. Thompson's going to read the legal notice, and Mr. Quimby will present the presentation for the proposal.
Ready? Public hearing being held by the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, 6:45 p.m. Tuesday, July 28th, 2026, at the REEB Manufacturing Facility, 1315 Goldsboro Road in Barclay. Purpose of the hearing is to consider revisions and adoption of the Sudlersville Water and Sewer Service Area Rate Schedule. Copies of the proposed rate schedule have been available at the offices of the County Commissioners, 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, and the Sudlersville Town Hall, 200 Church Street. If adopted, these changes are proposed to take effect October 1st, 2006. The actual rate schedules have been available to the public. The major revisions are as follows. One, to institute a customer charge of $12 per quarter per account. Two, to institute a minimum quarterly fee of 4,550 gallons per quarter to all improved properties. Third, to institute a ready-to-serve exemption program to assist homeowners with limited incomes, currently defined as $39,484. Fourth, to increase the current water and sewer rate surcharge and the associated usage charge by 35% effective October 1, 2026. Fifth, to increase the rates established on October 1st, 2026 by 15% for sewer and 5% for water for both ready to serve and the associated usage charge effective July 1st, 2027. Six, to increase the rates established July 1st, 2027 by 15% for sewer and 5% for water for both ready to serve and the associated usage charge effective July 1st, 2028. Seventh, institute an annual rate escalator to be applied to the water and sewer rate surcharge and its associated usage charge of 5% to be applied July 1st, 2029, and each subsequent July 1st thereafter. Eighth, institute an annual allocation fee escalator for new development to be applied to water and sewer allocation charges of 2.5% to be applied July 1st, 2027, and each subsequent July 1st thereafter. The above rate proposals will take effect automatically unless modified by the Queen Anne's County Sanitary Commission via resolution prior to the shown effective dates. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language interpreters and assistive listening services are available. Persons who wish to comment on the proposed amendments may do so at the hearing. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, but written testimony of any length can be submitted to the Department of Public Works. Part of the record of the proceeding will be a certificate of publication indicating the notice of tonight's hearing was published in the Bay Times Record Observer for 2 consecutive weeks prior to today's date. No one has signed up to speak.
I'm going to do my thing yet.
Huh?
I'm going to do my thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan, go ahead. Sorry about that.
All right, well, this is a similar but larger problem than we just talked about. Annual sewer expenditures in the neighborhood of $450,000. Revenues generated is $255,000, $195,000 lost per year for sewer, a $99,000 loss per year for water. There's a small customer base, 204 accounts, so it's difficult to spread the cost without causing some pain. And again, the sanitary district is an enterprise account. No tax dollars support the costs of operations. Apparently in 2008 or prior to 2008, there was a lot of development potential for the town, and the town commissioners at that time decided they needed to expand their plant. They incurred a lot of debt. The new plant, in addition to added debt service, the operation and maintenance costs increased greatly. The growth never materialized. Just bad timing. The Great Recession took off just about the time the plant was constructed, or while it was being constructed. Also, the last rate increase was January of 2018. Inflation alone from then until now is 28%, and yet there's been no increase in the rates. It is believed that some properties in town are still relying on their own site wells, which is robbing the town of sewer revenues. The town entered into a maintenance agreement for a water tower, which was prudent, but at a cost of $55,000 per year, which equates to 20% of the water revenues, and there was no increase in rates to cover that cost. Barclay, the red-headed stepchild. In 2024, the town of Barclay was connected to the town sewer system. There's a meter at the south end of town that measures the flow from Barclay, and this is the same thing I went through. They are paying their fair share, will be, if the rates are adopted. Barclay has their own USDA rate, yeah, that's their own USDA debt in their rate, so it's not like Suttersville is paying Barclay's debt. They are not. I don't know why that got corrupted. For water, you have $55,000 a year. That's only a 1/3 a man a day, even though oftentimes it's much more than 1/3 a man a day. $70,000 to bulk being that $55,000 tower contract. Materials at $21,000, chemicals at $9,000, electricity $11,000, and USDA debt of $85,000. For sewers, $160,000. Contractor services $75,000, materials $43,000, chemicals $47,000, electricity $72,000. Barclay pays $80,000 towards that, and Suttersville has $93,000 in USDA debt. The current rates consist of two components: a rate of serve charge and a usage charge. Sewer also has that bay restoration fee of $5 a month that goes to the state. What we suggested is October 1st, raise both rates 35%. July 1st, 27, raise sewer by 15%, water rates by 5%. The following July 28, raise sewer rates by 15, water rates by 5, and then every year thereafter, starting in July of 29, raising both rates 5% each year. The phase-in approach allows the sanitary district to refine the costs because we only have one full year of cost data. So, conceivably, year 2 and year 3 could be moderated in some degree. And it also allows us to adjust the rate increase if, in fact, some of the growth that's being proposed for Suttersville takes off. Like Barclay, we would institute a customer charge of $12. That's double what Barclay's paying because one customer charge goes for water, one goes for sewer. Barclay sewer only. Institute a minimum flow of 50 gallons a day for each improved property. This addresses the conception that there are some properties that are not connected to water that are using their well. In reality, it's not really 50 gallons a day, so if you go away on vacation for 7 days, you're not going to be charged 50 gallons, but you will be charged 4,550 gallons a quarter. So that's just the 50 gallons is 4,550 divided by 91. Derelict improved properties must be physically connected from both water and sewer in order to avoid the minimum rate. There might be some flexibility in that, which if you think you have a derelict property, write something to us to appeal and let us look at the property. I mean, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Impact on rates, assuming 100 gallons a day, because your Suttersville rates are based in half on your actual usage. The current cost is $113. After year 1, that would rise to $155. After year 2, $171. Year 3, $189. And like Barclay, I won't go through it again. There is the Ready to Serve exemption program. If you believe that your income threshold is below $39,484, I'd encourage you to apply. It would reduce at current rates from $113 to $65. Same process as I talked about with Barclay. Rate process is the same. We're here now for the public hearing. Commissioners will take consideration of testimony, and then they'll adopt whatever rates they feel comfortable with. And again, these rate increases are only to get us to a break-even point. There's no reserves generating, which USDA requires reserves, although I don't know what they can do to you if you don't have them, but nonetheless. And there's no funds necessary to upgrade projects, of which there are a few in town. The impact of growth it would be a huge advantage if there was, like even 40 units would make a huge difference in the revenue stream of Suttersville. And the growth would also allow the creation of reserves. We just went out to bid today for adding a process to the sewer plant because the sewer plant has only met permit once in 10 years. The town and now the county is under a consent order to rectify that. The county on behalf of the town got a $3 million grant, but most likely it's going to cost $4 million, which will come from the sanitary district. That is not built into your rate increase. The East Pump Station sewer collection suffers from high inflow and infiltration during heavy rains, which robs you of sewer capacity. That needs to be corrected. The current water metering system needs to be switched over to the county system, which will require each existing meter to be eventually replaced. And again, the proposed rate increase funds none of these improvements. That concludes it.
All right, as I said before, no one has signed up. to speak. Is there anyone who has any public comment?
Okay. Close that hearing also. Close the public comment. Keep it a public comment, yes.
Yes, I did have one public comment that I sent you via email today.
Got it.
Are there any emailed comments? Nothing, okay.
All right, close public comment.
You already did. Yeah, we did. We did.
Okay.
There it is.
We done?
You gonna read the comment?
I don't even have it with me. Her comment had mostly to do with her uncle lived in a property. The property's in a trust. She wanted to modify the ready-to-serve process, which was beyond this rate hearing. That would take a county code revision to allow the occupant of the home's income to determine whether they're eligible for ready-to-serve and not the owner of the property. Was beyond the scale of this hearing.
So not
So
the value of
so-
the trust, but.
No, so you
I'll
would
read
take the trust, you
have
would
it?
take the trust person's income right now is the way it's done. What they're saying is if the person's in there, that's living there under the trust, they want to be able to use their income to, so, yeah.
This is from Miss Valerie Edge, Seaford, Delaware.
She's the trust.
Okay.
She's the truster, I guess, yeah.
Sudlersville, Director of Public Works. Dear Commissioners, thank you for your efforts to run the sewer and water services in the town of Sudlersville in response to the cost-effective manner. The town is small. Many of its residents have lived their entire lives in this area, and the opportunities for well-paying jobs are sparse. The town has suffered from embezzlement and mismanagement of the sewer and water system. Consequently, I request that because of the impact on these residents, that the rates not be increased unless it's absolutely necessary. Assuming the necessity of purposes of these comments, the proposed ready-to-serve exemption program seems to be a reasonable effort to reduce the impact of any increases on poorer residents. However, the current plan only applies to owners of property and is too narrowly tailored to address all the situations where the reduction should apply. My 86-year-old uncle, William, lives at which his father built when he was a child. He lived there with my grandmother since he has some disability. My grandparents owned on Charles and on another Charles Street. Since the inception of the sewer and water, my grandparents paid the monthly, quarterly sewer fees and water for 103 Charles Street. Since my grandmother died 8 years ago and left the property in trust so that my uncle could continue to live there, we continue to pay for water and sewer because of, at this point, abandoning the practice would add impact fees to the lot if it's ever built on. My family has paid thousands of dollars for water and sewer service for a lot that has never required the town to incur a penny of expense. Currently, the charge is approximately $53 a month, in addition to the sewer and water services to the small residence my uncle resides in. The property is titled in my name and that my sister as trustee, but my sister passed away due to COVID. This is to request a too small modification to the proposed plan in order to try to compensate for the decades-long fees that we've been paying. Please amend the ready-to-serve exemption program to include occupants of a home that would otherwise qualify when the property is owned by a trust and occupied by a person. Please make a provision that states that if a property has no current or past usage of water or sewer, but that has paid for services for 8 years, that the entire billing be waived except for $1 a month until an arm's length transaction occurs, and that the owner would have to start repaying the fees. These are minor changes that are unlikely to impact very many people and would have negligible impact on the new billing system. However, the people who are impacted are the people who qualify based on low income and are those who greatly benefit from the service without reaping any benefits themselves. Please contact me, Valerie Edge.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right.
Moving on.
I'm going to close the hearing and leave the record open for 2 weeks?
Yes.
Both of these? Okay. All right, Commissioners, that concludes all of our business this evening. You can move into press and public comments. If there's any additional press and public comment this evening from anybody?
It looks
Going once, twice? Okay,
Nope.
seeing none?
No one wants to speak.
And we can go to roundtable.
Patrick? You good?
I'm good. I would like to, after this is open, or after we're done, I'd like to talk to you about the 12-year moratorium on building. I'm just not familiar with that, so I'll talk to you afterwards.
Jack?
Yep, I want to thank REEB for their hospitality tonight. I want to thank all the Barclay folk and Southerville folk that were able to make it here. I know you don't come to Centerville that often, so great to see you. We probably should hold the meeting out for another half hour. 'Cause leaving now is probably not the best idea if you want to stay dry, but yeah, we may all have to hit the snack room then, but yep, that's all I got.
Nothing in particular, other than I want to thank Bruce and the rest of the gang at QAC Channel 7. As you can tell by the extravagant setup here to make this meeting public to all citizens in Queen Anne's County, it's a big job. So great work, you guys, and thank you.
Yeah, and I also want to thank REEB and the town of Barclay and Sudlersville for coming out here tonight. I appreciate it. I know it's not the most pleasant thing to come out here for, these rate increases, but without them, we're going to have some serious problems, and that's a whole nother picture. So thank you for coming out, and I'll take a motion to...
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.